Hey y'all, Jamie here, proud 55-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off? Well, I had received a letter from Selective Service, y'all. I was 21 years old, had just turned 21 years old, and I received a letter from Selective Service from the United States saying that you didn't register when you turned 18. That was still the law in those days. And yeah, I was threatened with potential prison time if I didn't respond immediately. So I did. And I looked on the letter. It said if you think that you are, exempt, So I'm looking on the thing for the reason that I would be exempt, right? And I don't see a reason that would say like there's no trans, I'm trans button to push. So, I called the number. And I got a nice man on the phone and I told him what was going on. And I said, listen, I said, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And he said, well, honey, he said, have you had everything done? Have you been completely surgically done? And I said, well, no, I just turned 21. No, I haven't had everything done yet. And he said, well, then, according to the law, you still have to register. And I was like, but wait, what would you do with me? I have breasts and blah, blah, blah. And the guy's all, honey, 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 calm down. And he was calling me honey on the phone. He said, calm down. He said, believe me. If they were to reinstate the draft, he said, which I don't see happening, but if they were to reinstate the draft, they would take one look at you and send you right back home. So, yeah, that was how they felt about those things in those days, which I got to be real honest. Listen, fighting to survive for myself on the streets was enough. I don't even know how people that dedicate their lives to fighting for this country do it. I have so much respect and admiration for that. It's not something I was meant for, and I was so relieved. I was so relieved that I didn't have to do it, and that I didn't have to go to prison for it. But so this summer is going on, and listen, I'm up to all kinds of shenanigans. The life of a young hooker, a young newlywed hooker. What do you want me to tell you? I started dancing at the Fun Limited again, which was on Decatur Street in the French Quarter. So yeah, I went back to work dancing there. Bobby Joe is still staying with me and Mickey. And I I remember one night I'm out during this time and there's one of the older dolls on the streets. Her name was Miss Coffee. Okay. She was definitely a street corner girl, and she was a pickpocket. I'm just gonna be honest. She was a pickpocket. Or what we called, she was a girl that clipped. So she pulled me to the side one night and she said, because she heard me and Valerie, my friend Valerie, talking about how Valerie had taught me how to dip and do in pockets in the clubs, in the booths. So Miss Coffee got a hold of me, honey, and she said, oh no, Miss Jamie. She said, we're gonna learn you, girl. And she started teaching me things like how to nibble and like bite on a man's neck while you're undoing the chain around his neck to remove it, and how to look into his eyes and suck on his fingers to get his rings off. You know, um, any number of little tricks of the trade that she was teaching me, listen, the girls had to survive, and there were a lot of guys that were out to beat us too. There's a reason they call it tricking. It should be trick or treating because trust me, you didn't know what you were going to get. You could get beat down, you could get robbed, you could get SA'd, yeah, any number of things could happen. And so we sometimes in some situations we got before we were gotten, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, y'all. So there's a grocery store in the French Quarter that there's a lot going on this summer, and there was a grocery store in the French Quarter that was the A&P. That's what it was called, and it had been closed for a little while to do remodeling and redecorating of the entire store and everything. And so me and Bobby Joe and Mickey, we were going to go get stuff to cook dinner. I don't remember if my sister was coming over that day or what, but she had moved and left New Orleans around that time. So I don't remember if she was coming over or not. But we went to the A&P on the very first day the grocery store was opening again after being closed for weeks for remodeling, right? And so everything's brand spanking new and sparkly and shiny on the shelves, and we're shopping and tipping through there and getting things for me to make my famous round steak and rice and gravy that my dear friend Bobby Joe loves when I make. Yeah, and that's what we were getting the stuff for. And so we're standing in line and we get in line to check out at the front. And while I'm standing there, there's these two young girls in front of us in line, and you could tell they were tourists, like they were very obviously tourists. And I think they had on Pat O'Brien shirts and stuff, like just really, really obvious tourists. And so they're standing there in line. And this big old boy, you could tell he was a local. Like I knew instantly he was a local. And he was a big old boy. He comes in and he just butts right in front of him in line, like they're not even standing there. And they looked horrified. And I have a mouth. And I said, listen, dude, you don't have to come in here acting like fucking trash and cutting in front of people. And he turned around and he looked at me and he said, excuse me, what the fuck did you say to me? And I said, I don't think I motherfucking stuttered, bitch. And as soon as that came out of my mouth, this man hauled off and bitch slapped the fuck out of me. I saw stars. Honey, if y'all want to know what happened next, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow and I will too. I love you all. I love you all for watching, and I love you for the comments. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.